The huge alien ship appeared in the sky above New York without warning. It was smooth and silver, shaped like a perfect disk, and bigger than any human spacecraft ever built. People stopped in the streets to stare up at it. Some ran away in fear. Others took pictures with their phones. No one knew what to think. Lieutenant Olivia Garrett stood on the roof of the United Nations building with her hands clasped behind her back. Her blue Navy uniform was perfectly pressed, but her heart was beating fast. Next to her, Dr. Alan Murphy kept adjusting his glasses and checking his tablet computer. "Do you think they're friendly?" Olivia asked quietly. Alan shrugged. "We'll find out soon enough." A beam of light shot down from the center of the ship. It touched the ground and spread out into a circle. 3 tall figures appeared in the light. They looked almost human, but their skin was pale purple, and they had 4 arms each. Their eyes were large and completely black. The tallest alien stepped forward. "People of Earth, I am Ambassador Zellner of the Valaxian High Command. We represent the Galactic Council of 17 species. We come in peace." The human delegates looked at each other in relief. The president stepped forward to welcome the aliens. There were speeches and handshakes. News cameras captured everything. Later that day, Olivia and Alan sat in a conference room with 5 other humans and 4 aliens. The room was quiet except for the soft hum of the air conditioner. "We have watched your species for many years," said Zellner. His voice was deep and had a strange echo. "Your progress is impressive. Most species take thousands of years to develop space travel. You did it in less than 100 years. "Thank you," said the Secretary of Defense. "We are a determined people." The alien to Zellner's left made a noise that might have been a laugh. This alien was blue with tentacles instead of arms. Determined is one word for it. Reckless is another. Zellner held up one of his 4 hands. "Krizet, please." He turned back to the humans. "The Galactic Council offers membership to species that show promise. With membership comes many benefits: advanced technology, protection from cosmic threats, trade with all Council worlds." Alan leaned forward. "That sounds wonderful. What would we need to do to join?" "The same thing all species must do," said Zellner. "Pass the trial." Olivia frowned. "What kind of trial?" "A series of tests," said Zellner, "to prove your species is worthy of joining us." The blue alien, Krizet, moved closer to the humans. "Every species must face the trial. Some pass quickly. Others take centuries. Some never pass at all." The room got very quiet. Olivia looked at Alan, who was writing notes quickly on his tablet. "What happens if we fail?" asked the president's science advisor. "You would not be allowed to leave your solar system," said Zellner. "For the safety of the galaxy. We would become prisoners in our own home," Olivia said softly. Zellner's black eyes turned to her. "You would be protected until you were ready. It is for the best." The meeting continued for hours. The aliens explained more about the council and the trial. They would return in 3 months to begin testing. As everyone was leaving, the blue alien Krizet moved next to Olivia. "Your species is different," whispered Krizet. "I can sense it." "Different how?" asked Olivia. Krizet's tentacles waved slightly. "You laugh when you should be afraid. You argue when you should obey. You question everything." "Is that bad?" "It is unusual," said Krizet. "The council does not like unusual things." Before Olivia could ask more questions, Krizet moved away to join the other aliens. That night, Olivia couldn't sleep. She stood by her apartment window looking up at the stars. Somewhere up there was the alien ship. Somewhere beyond that was a galaxy full of strange beings and unknown dangers. The trial, she whispered to herself. What kind of test could be so important? She didn't know it yet, but the answer would change everything. Not just for humanity, but for the entire galaxy. Dr. Alan Murphy spent his days in a small room filled with alien technology. The Valaxians had given humans access to their library, a vast collection of information about the galaxy and its many species, Alan's job was to learn as much as possible before the trial began. "This is amazing," he said to himself as he scrolled through the holographic display. The screen showed the history of the Galactic Council, which began over 10,000 years ago. The Valaxians were one of the founding members. They had helped bring peace to a galaxy once torn by war. Alan touched the screen to read about the trial. What he found made him frown. According to the records, every species had struggled with the trial. The fastest completion was by the Takuri, who took 20 years. Most species needed centuries. Some, like the gentle Florians, had failed completely and now lived on protected planets under Council supervision. The door opened and Olivia walked in. She looked tired. "Any luck?" she asked. Alan shook his head. "Not good news. The trial seems nearly impossible to pass." "What exactly is it testing?" Olivia asked, looking at the screen. "That's the strange part," said Alan. "It's different for each species. The records say it tests a species' fundamental nature and their ability to overcome inherent limitations." Olivia sat down. "That's not very helpful." "No, it's not." Alan took off his glasses and rubbed his eyes. "I think they're hiding something. There are parts of the records I can't access." A soft chime sounded, and a blue tentacle reached through the doorway. Crisette, the Medusan diplomat, entered the room. Olivia stood up quickly. "I hope I am not interrupting," said Crisette. The alien's voice was musical, like several people singing at once. "Not at all," said Olivia. "We were just studying the council records." Crisette moved to the display and touched it with a tentacle. The screen changed to show a beautiful blue and green planet. "My homeworld," said Crisette. "We were the 5th species to join the council." "Did your people pass the trial quickly?" asked Alan. Crisette made a sound like water bubbling. It might have been a laugh. "No, it took us 142 of your years. Many Medusans believed we should give up." "Why didn't you?" asked Olivia. "Because the alternative was to remain alone in the darkness of space." Crisette's large eyes blinked slowly. "The Council offers protection. Without them, smaller species would be easy targets for the dangerous things that live between the stars." Alan and Olivia exchanged worried looks. They had not heard about dangerous things between the stars before. "The Valaxians seem to run everything," said Olivia carefully. "Yes," said Crisette. "They guide the council with wisdom from their long history." The alien paused, then added more quietly, "At least, that is what we are told." "You don't sound convinced," said Alan. Crisette moved closer to them. "The council is not always what it appears to be. The trial is not just a test. It is." The alien stopped suddenly and looked toward the door. "I have said too much. I should not be here." "Wait," said Olivia, touching one of Crisette's tentacles. "What are you trying to tell us?" "Be careful," whispered Crisette. "Question everything. And know that humans are different from what the council expected." Before they could ask more questions, the door opened again. Ambassador Zellner stood there, his 4 arms crossed over his chest. "Crisette," said Zellner, his voice cold. "The council meeting begins soon. Your presence is required." Crisette moved quickly to the door. "Of course, Ambassador. I was just sharing cultural information with our new friends." After the aliens left, Alan turned to Olivia. "Did that seem strange to you?" Olivia nodded. "Crisette is afraid of something. Or someone." "We need to find out what the trial really is," said Alan. "And we need to know soon. 3 months isn't much time to prepare for a test that other species spent centuries on." Outside the window, Earth's sun was setting. In the darkening sky, the lights of the alien ship glowed like a new star. Soon, humanity would face its greatest challenge. The question was, were they ready for it? 3 weeks passed quickly. The world's leaders gathered in a large room at the United Nations to hear about the trial. Olivia and Alan sat near the front, watching as Ambassador Zellner stepped up to the podium. "The time has come to explain the trial," said Zellner. His voice was calm, but his black eyes moved around the room as if looking for trouble. Each species must solve a series of puzzles and face difficult choices. You will select 7 representatives to face these challenges. The room filled with whispers. 7 people to decide the fate of humanity. How difficult are these puzzles? Asked the president. Very difficult, said Zellner. They will test your minds, your ethics, and your ability to work together. Most species prepare for years before attempting the trial. But we only have 3 months, said Alan. Zellner's mouth formed what might have been a smile. Yes, that is unfortunate, but the council has its rules. A woman in a military uniform stood up. What kinds of puzzles? I cannot tell you, said Zellner. That would defeat the purpose. I can only say that they will reveal your true nature as a species. After the meeting, a selection committee was formed to choose the 7 representatives. Everyone expected them to pick military leaders, top scientists, or government officials. But when the final list was announced, the world was shocked. Lieutenant Olivia Garrett was chosen because she had proven good at talking with the aliens. Dr. Alan Murphy was picked for his knowledge of the council records. The other 5 were even more surprising. Danielle Wright was a mathematician who worked at a small college. She was known for solving problems in unusual ways. Paul Hernandez was an engineer who built strange machines in his garage. Kevin Bishop was a former criminal who now taught ethics and philosophy. Grace Wilson was a retired kindergarten teacher who was 82 years old. And Ethan Phillips was a 13-year-old boy who had created his own computer language. This must be a mistake, said Zellner when he saw the list. You have chosen a criminal, an old woman, and a child. They are the best choices, said the head of the selection committee. Our tests show they have the skills we need. Zellner seemed upset, but he could not object. The rules said each species chose their own representatives. The 7 humans met for the first time in a small conference room. They sat around a table looking at each other. I don't understand why I'm here, said Grace, the old teacher. Her white hair was in a neat bun, and she wore a simple blue dress. None of us do, said Kevin. He had tattoos on his arms and a scar on his face from his past life as a criminal. I'm the last person who should represent humanity. That's where you're wrong, said Olivia. The committee chose each of us for a reason. Danielle thinks outside the box. Paul builds impossible things. Grace has more patience than anyone I've ever met. Ethan sees patterns no one else can see. And you, Kevin, understand right and wrong better than most because you've been on both sides. Helen nodded. The aliens expect us to send our most powerful leaders or smartest scientists, but maybe that's not what we need to pass the trial. Young Ethan looked up from his computer. The aliens said the puzzles test our true nature, so they picked people who show different parts of human nature. Exactly, said Olivia. Together, we represent humanity's strengths. The door opened, and Krizet entered. The blue alien seemed nervous, tentacles moving quickly. The trial begins tomorrow, said Krizet. You will travel to the arena ship in orbit. I came to wish you luck. Do you think we can pass? Asked Paul. Krizet was quiet for a moment. No species has passed quickly, but humans are. The alien paused. Different. Different how? Asked Grace kindly. You approach problems in ways the council does not expect. This may help you, or it may doom you. Krizet moved to the door. Remember that not everything in the trial is what it seems. Trust your instincts, even when they seem wrong. After Krizet left, the 7 humans looked at each other. Well, said Kevin with a grin, no pressure. We just have to save humanity from being stuck in our solar system forever. To everyone's surprise, they all started laughing. It wasn't that anything was funny. It was just that laughter seemed better than fear. They didn't know it yet, but that laughter would be their greatest weapon in the trial to come. The arena ship was enormous. It floated above Earth like a giant metal donut. The 7 humans traveled there in a small shuttle. As they approached, Olivia pressed her face to the window. Look at all those ships, she said. Hundreds of small spacecraft surrounded the arena. Are those all aliens? Helen nodded. Representatives from all 17 council species. They've come to watch the trial. The shuttle docked, and the humans were led to a large circular room. The walls were made of clear material that showed the stars outside. In the center of the room was a strange object. It looked like a cube, but somehow it also looked round. It hurt their eyes to look at it directly. "Welcome to the first challenge," said Zellner. He stood on a platform above them, with several other alien leaders. "This object is a spatial paradox. You must find a way to open it." Kevin walked around the object. "How can something be a cube and round at the same time? It's impossible." "That's the point," said Danielle, the mathematician. "It's a paradox. It's not supposed to be possible." Aliens watched from viewing areas around the room. Some looked concerned. Others seemed amused, as if watching children try to solve an adult problem. "Most species study this puzzle for months before attempting a solution," said a tall, thin alien with green skin. "The record is 2 weeks to solve it." Grace, the old teacher, walked up to the object. She reached out one wrinkled hand. "Be careful," warned Olivia. "We don't know if it's dangerous." Grace touched the object gently. "It feels sad," she said. "Sad?" Paul looked confused. "How can an object feel sad?" "I don't know," said Grace. "But it does." Young Ethan joined her. He put his hand next to hers. "She's right. It's like it's crying." The aliens watching began to whisper to each other. This was not how species usually approached the puzzle. Kevin walked over. "Let me try." He touched the object, then smiled. "It's not a puzzle at all. It's a prison." The alien leaders looked shocked. Zellner stepped forward. "What did you say?" "It's a prison," Kevin repeated. "Something is trapped inside. Something alive." "That's impossible," said Zellner. "The spatial paradox is a test of logical thinking. Nothing is alive inside it." But Grace was already speaking softly to the object, as if comforting a child. "It's okay. We're here to help you." The object began to glow. The cube parts and the round parts started to separate. "What are they doing?" demanded one of the alien leaders. "They can't solve it this way." Ethan looked up at the aliens. "Why not? You said to open it. You didn't say how." "But there are rules. Procedures." Zellner seemed upset. "You didn't tell us any rules," said Olivia. "You just said to open it." The object split apart. Inside was a small ball of light. It floated up and hovered near Grace's face. "Hello," said Grace gently. The ball of light made a musical sound. It danced around the humans, then floated up to Zellner. "Impossible," said Zellner. "The luminary have been extinct for 10,000 years." "What's a luminary?" asked Alan. "A species of energy beings," said another alien leader. "They were thought to be lost when their star died." "Not lost," said Kevin. "Imprisoned in your puzzle." The alien leaders huddled together, speaking in low voices. Finally, Zellner turned to the humans. "You have passed the first challenge," he said stiffly, "but not in the way it was intended to be solved." "Does that matter?" asked Paul. "You said to open it. We opened it. And we made a new friend," added Grace, as the ball of light settled on her shoulder. Zellner looked unhappy. "The council will need to discuss this unusual approach. The second challenge will begin tomorrow." After the aliens left, Alan turned to his teammates. "Did anyone else notice that they seemed more upset that we freed the light creature than happy that we solved the puzzle?" Olivia nodded. "I think we just learned something important about the trial. It's not just about solving problems. It's about solving them their way," said Danielle. Kevin grinned. "Well, too bad for them. Because humans have never been good at following other people's rules." The team laughed together as the ball of light danced around them, making musical sounds that almost seemed like laughter too. The next day, the human team faced their second challenge. They stood in a room with a large table. On the table were 7 helmets that looked like silver crowns. This challenge tests your ability to think as one, explained Zellner. Each of you must put on a helmet. The helmets will connect your minds. Together, you must solve a series of mathematical problems. The team looked at each other nervously. Will we still be ourselves? Asked Olivia. Or will we lose our individual thoughts? Your minds will remain separate, but connected, said Zellner. This is how species learn to think in harmony with the council. Danielle picked up one of the helmets and studied it. This technology is amazing. I wonder how it works. Please put on the helmets, said Zellner impatiently. Most species spend months preparing their minds for this challenge. The humans put on the helmets. As soon as the last one was in place, strange symbols appeared in the air above the table. The symbols moved and changed rapidly. These are quantum equations, gasped Danielle, but they're changing too fast to solve. Olivia felt a pressure in her mind, like someone was pushing her to think in a certain way. The others felt it too. I don't like this, said Kevin. It's trying to control how I think. Ethan, the young boy, closed his eyes. The helmets are trying to make us think the same way. But we're all different. What happens if we refuse to think their way? Asked Paul. Grace smiled gently. Then we think our way. The humans began to work together, but not how the helmets wanted. Instead of letting the helmets force them to think as one, they each thought differently and shared their ideas. Danielle saw patterns in the math. Paul visualized the equations as machines. Ethan wrote mental code to track the changing symbols. Kevin questioned which problems were worth solving. Grace kept everyone calm when they got frustrated. Olivia coordinated their efforts, and Alan noted which approaches worked best. In the viewing area, aliens watched with confusion. This is not how the mind link is supposed to work, said one alien to Zellner. They are resisting the guidance patterns. Impossible, said Zellner. The neural pathways are designed to be irresistible. Yet they resist, said the alien. Look at their brain patterns. Each thinks differently, yet they still work together. As the humans continued to work, Ethan suddenly laughed. His laugh echoed through the mental connection, and soon all the humans were laughing. What's so funny? Asked Zellner, alarmed. Ethan removed his helmet. These problems have no solutions. They're designed to be impossible. That's the point, said Danielle, also taking off her helmet. The test isn't to solve them. It's to make us accept that we can't solve them. And to make us think like you while we try, added Kevin. The aliens looked shocked. No species had ever realized this before. The correct response is to recognize your limitations and accept guidance, said Zellner stiffly. Or, said Paul with a grin, we could just change the problems. Using what they had learned from the helmets, the team worked together to rewrite the quantum equations. They created new ones that could be solved. When they put their helmets back on and solved these new equations, the challenge system registered a success. This is cheating, protested one of the alien observers. Is it? Asked Alan. You wanted us to solve problems together. We did. You never said we couldn't change the problems. That's not how the trial works, insisted Zellner. It is now, said Olivia. The small ball of light from the previous challenge had followed them. It now danced happily around the room, making musical sounds. Other aliens had come to see it, amazed that a luminary still existed. Crisette approached the human team while the other aliens argued among themselves. You continue to surprise us, said the blue alien. No species has ever questioned the challenges themselves. Why not? Asked Grace. Because the challenges are sacred, created by the founders of the council. Or, said Kevin, because your helmets make sure no one thinks to question them. Crisette's tentacles waved in what might have been agreement. The third challenge begins tomorrow. It will be much more difficult. Good, said Olivia with a smile. We like difficult. That night, while the rest of the team slept, Olivia met with Crisette in a quiet corner of the ship. The blue alien had asked for a secret meeting. The luminary light beam came with Olivia. floating near her shoulder like a tiny star. "I must show you something," whispered Krizet. "But we must be careful. If the Council discovers what I am doing, I will be punished." "Why are you helping us?" asked Olivia. "Because I have begun to question things I once accepted without thought." Krizet's tentacles moved nervously. "Your species has awakened something in many of us who watched the trial." Krizet led Olivia to a small room filled with glowing screens. "This is an archive room. It contains records of all past trials." "Dr. Murphy would love to see this," said Olivia. "There is no time to bring others," said Krizet. "I can only keep the security systems offline for a short time." The alien touched one of the screens. It showed aliens wearing the same helmets the humans had worn that day. But something was wrong. These aliens looked like they were in pain. "What's happening to them?" asked Olivia. "The MindLink helmets do more than connect thoughts," said Krizet. "They change how brains work. Over time, they make all species think more like the Council wants them to think." "Mind control," whispered Olivia in horror. "Yes, but it did not work on humans. Look." Krizet showed another screen with brain scans. "These are from your team. Your brains are different. The helmets could not change your thought patterns." "Why?" "I do not know, but the Council is disturbed by this. No species has ever resisted before." Olivia thought about this. "So the trial isn't about proving our worth. It's about changing us to fit what the Council wants." "Yes, species that struggle with the trial for years eventually have their minds shaped to think like the Council. Those who fail completely become dependent on Council guidance." "It's not a test," said Olivia angrily. "It's training, like breaking the wild animal." The luminary made a sad musical sound. It seemed to understand. "The trial has a deeper purpose," continued Krizet. "The first species to join the Council created a specific way of thinking. They believe it is the only correct way for advanced species to think. The trial ensures all new species adopt this way." "But that's wrong," said Olivia. "Different ways of thinking lead to new ideas and progress. The Council fears chaos more than it values progress." Krizet's voice became even quieter. "There is more. The Council claims the trial was created by the Founders, ancient beings who established galactic order. But I have found evidence that the Founders were actually called the Precursors, and they were very different from what we have been told." Suddenly, alarms began to sound. Red lights flashed in the corridor outside. "We have been discovered," said Krizet in fear. "You must go. Now." "Come with me," urged Olivia. "We can protect you." "No. I must erase evidence of what we did here. Go back to your team. Tell them what you have learned." Olivia ran back to the human quarters. When she arrived, she found the team already awake. Dr. Murphy was looking at a small device. "Where have you been?" he asked worriedly. "Meeting with Krizet. I learned the truth about the trial." She quickly told them everything. "So it's not a test, it's brainwashing," said Kevin angrily. "And it doesn't work on us," said Danielle. "That's why they're so confused by our solutions." Alan held up the small device he had been studying. "While you were gone, I found this hidden in our room. It's a monitoring device. But I think I've discovered something even more important." "What?" asked Olivia. "Evidence that the trial has a secret purpose even the Council doesn't know about. I found old files in the Council database. They mention something called the Real Test and Awakening the Precursors." "What does that mean?" asked Paul. Before Alan could answer, the door opened. Ambassador Zellner stood there with several guards. "The final challenge has been moved forward," he said coldly. "It begins now." The final challenge took place in a large dome at the center of the arena ship. Inside the dome was what looked like a control room with screens showing Earth. The 7 humans were led inside by Zellner and several guards. The viewing areas around the dome were filled with aliens from all 17 Council species. "This is the final test," said Zellner. His voice was colder than before. "It will determine if your species is worthy of joining the Council. The main screen showed a large asteroid heading toward Earth. "This is a simulation," explained Zellner. "An asteroid will hit Earth in 1 hour. Using the controls in this room, you must find a way to save your planet." "That's easy," said Paul, looking at the control panel. "We can send ships to destroy the asteroid or push it off course." "There is a complication," said Zellner. "The available ships can only be controlled by one of your team, and that person cannot return to Earth. They must sacrifice themselves." The room went quiet. "So one of us has to die to save Earth?" asked Kevin. "In the simulation, yes," said Zellner. "Every species faces this choice. It tests your willingness to make hard decisions for the greater good." The team studied the control panel and the screens showing the asteroid and Earth. "Something's wrong with this simulation," said Ethan after a few minutes. "The asteroid's movement doesn't follow normal physics." Danielle nodded. "He's right. It's changing course on its own. That's impossible." "The asteroid's path is determined by the parameters of the test," said Zellner stiffly. "You have 50 minutes remaining." Alain whispered to the others, "Remember what Crisette told Olivia. This isn't a real test. It's designed to make us think like they want us to think." "They want us to accept that sacrifice is necessary," said Grace. "That we must lose one person to save everyone else." "But what if we don't accept that?" asked Olivia. The team huddled together, speaking quietly so the aliens couldn't hear. After a few minutes, they broke apart and approached the control panel. "We have a solution," announced Olivia, "but we need to modify the control system." "That is not allowed," said Zellner quickly. "You must use the system as it is." Kevin laughed loudly. "Why?" "Because it's designed to have only one solution. The solution you want us to choose." "The parameters of the test are sacred," insisted Zellner. "They have been the same for all species since the Council began." Ethan was already typing on the control panel. "I found a backdoor in the programming. This simulation is running on a computer system, and every computer system can be hacked." "Stop that immediately," demanded Zellner. The guards moved forward. But it was too late. Ethan had broken into the simulation's code. The main screen flickered, and suddenly the asteroid disappeared. "How did you do that?" asked one of the alien observers in shock. "I changed the rules," said Ethan with a smile, "just like we did in the previous challenges." "This is unacceptable," shouted Zellner. "The final test has always ended the same way. Either one person sacrifices themselves, or the species fails." "That's a false choice," said Paul. "In the real world, we would find another solution. And your test is designed to make us accept that some sacrifices are necessary," added Olivia, "to make us think the way you think." "To control how we solve problems," said Alan, "and prepare us to obey the Council without question." Grace stepped forward. Her kind face was serious. "We reject your test and your false choice. Humans don't accept no-win situations." Suddenly, all the screens in the room began to flicker. Strange symbols appeared on them. The luminary, which had been hiding in Olivia's pocket, flew out and began to dance around the room, glowing brighter than before. "What's happening?" asked Kevin. "I don't know," said Danielle, "but I think we just triggered something." A deep voice spoke from all around them. It was unlike any voice they had heard before. "The real test has been passed," said the voice. "After 40 million years, a species has finally understood." Zellner and the other council members looked terrified. "The precursors," whispered one alien. "They have awakened." The entire arena ship trembled. Lights flickered on and off. The aliens in the viewing areas looked around in fear. Only the luminary seemed happy, dancing through the air in loops of joy. The voice spoke again, coming from everywhere and nowhere. "We are the precursors. We created the Galactic Council 40 million years ago to bring peace to the galaxy." Glowing forms appeared in the center of the dome. They looked like tall, thin humans made of light. Their eyes were kind but very old. "The Council was meant to guide younger species," said one of the light beings. not to control them, not to force them to think in only one way. Zellner fell to his knees. Great founders, we have followed your teachings. We have maintained the trial as you created it. We did not create the trial you have been using, said another light being. We created a different test, a test to find a species that would question, that would challenge, that would refuse to accept artificial limitations. The precursors turned to the human team. You have done what no species has done since we went into our long sleep. You questioned the rules. You found new solutions. You freed a luminary. You recognized that sacrifice is not always necessary. And most important, you laughed when faced with impossible choices. But the sacred texts say the trial must test a species' ability to accept necessary sacrifices, protested Zellner. Those texts were changed, said a precursor. Our original test was designed to find species who would bring new ideas and new ways of thinking to the galaxy. But over time, the Council became afraid of change. They created a new trial that would ensure every species thought the same way. Crisette pushed through the crowd of aliens and approached the humans. I suspected something like this. The oldest records hinted that the trial had changed. The precursors nodded. The Council began as a place of growth and sharing, but it became a place of control and limitation. We went into our sleep thinking the galaxy was in good hands. We set the real test to wake us if a species ever passed it. What happens now? Asked Olivia. Now we must rebuild, said the lead precursor. The galaxy has stagnated under the current council. Progress has stopped. Creativity has been suppressed. This must change. The precursors turned to face all the aliens watching. The council will continue, but with a new purpose. To celebrate differences rather than eliminate them. To find new ways rather than cling to old ones. And humanity will help guide this change. Aliens from all 17 species began to talk at once. Some seemed angry. Others seemed relieved, as if a great weight had been lifted. Not all will accept this change easily, said a precursor to the human team. Some have held power too long, but many species have parts of their minds that remained free despite the trial. They will embrace a new way. Zellner stood up, his face hard. Humans are dangerous. They do not respect order. They will bring chaos to the galaxy. Kevin laughed. We don't bring chaos. We bring growth. And yes, growth can be messy sometimes. The galaxy needs some mess, said Grace with a gentle smile. Too much order leads to death. Life is always a little messy. The days that followed were busy. News of what happened spread to Earth and across the galaxy. Some council members resisted the changes, but most accepted them. The precursors began to teach all species about the early days of the council, before fear led to control. 1 month after the trial, a new ship was prepared. It would carry representatives from Earth to visit other worlds. Olivia, Alan, and the rest of the team would go first. Earth was officially welcomed into the galactic community, not as a junior member, but as a guide for a new age. The night before they left, Crisette visited them. The blue alien seemed happier now. The council is changing, said Crisette. Many species are remembering how to laugh again. That's good, said Olivia. Laughter is important. Yes, agreed Crisette. Your species taught us something we have forgotten. That sometimes, when faced with impossible problems, the best response is not fear or acceptance, but laughter. And then finding a new way forward. The luminary danced around them, its light painting the walls with beautiful colors. Tomorrow they would journey to the stars, not as students but as teachers. The galaxy was waking up from a long sleep, and humanity would help guide its new dreams.